Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of The Human Side of Marketing. I'm Chris Angel, your co-host. I'm here with your host, Kurt Stockwell from Walrus.
Hello, Chris. Good to see you in 2019. We made it.
Oh my gosh, it's 2019. That's crazy, first of all. This year flew by. I mean, last year flew by.
Remember watching Back to the Future, and they're talking about, the future? That was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, right? Marty McFly and his life saving vest.
Yeah. Right. And there's still no flying cars. My office looks out onto a busy road. None of them are flying. So come on, scientists, get it together. We need flying cars.
We do have versions of hoverboards, at least products called hoverboards, but they don't actually work like
No. I don't think we're as far as we thought we would be from mid 80s. But
anyway. You and I were talking about this earlier today. By the way, this is good for all of you listening, because in business, you just know, every time you come up with a project, it always takes longer than you think it will. Whether it's hoverboards or your websites or your marketing, there's always more to the picture under the surface to actually make it work. So don't beat yourself up, guys. It's January. We have a whole year in front of us. Don't beat yourselves up if you're further behind than you want it to be from 2018 projects. But actually, it's a good segue, right? Because we're talking about productivity tools and ways you can be more productive. So
that's right. Yep. Online tools that will make you more productive. That's the title of our show today.
It is. That's it. I love it. Well, I'm always geeking out on tools. I think sometimes there's so many tools I get overwhelmed. So I'm glad you're bringing some clarity to what tools you use on a daily basis and how it might help us. So kick us off, Kurt, with some of the tools you use and want to share.
Yeah, literally, these are tools I use every single day. I've got tabs set up on my browser. I use Google Chrome, and when I get into work, I open every single one of these tabs because I use them multiple times throughout every day. And they're all online tools. They're all accessible via my phone as well, which is important when you're out and about. Yep. And then also, it's something that keeps my head on straight. I come from the creative side of my brain, and all the creatives out there are, giving me a shout out because we forget things, right? Right. And so being more productive through project management tools and customer management tools and time tracking tools and contract process tools, that's the only way I get through the day.
Yeah, so good. No, it's so good. Well, let's jump into, I know Basecamp is a big one that you guys use all the time to manage your project, your website builds and everything. So talk to me about Basecamp.
One of the tools that we use that will help you and your team be more productive is a team tool called Basecamp. If you've heard of Basecamp or maybe have experienced Basecamp through another client, it's a really affordable tool. Most of the things that we're going to talk about today, you do have to pay for. I don't recall the price of each one of them. They're all very affordable, but they are extremely robust. Basecamp in particular is a way that you can use to involve multiple team members as well as clients. So when we start a project like a website build, we open up a template that we've created in Basecamp. And what's great about the template piece of Basecamp is a lot of times when you're creating a project or doing a project for a customer, you're doing many of the same things in the process for each customer, like the onboarding process and the launch process and the post-launch process, whatever your quote-unquote launch is. You're doing the same thing. So what's cool with Basecamp is all of these to-do items can be put into a template. So for us, we literally have, probably 60, 70 different to-do items that are automatically assigned to different team members just right out of the gate when you're pushing, create new and give it a title and boom, then everybody's rolling. Then you can also customize to-do items and assign them to your team. Another thing that's great about Basecamp is you can invite a client to Basecamp, and you can give them access only to the things that they need access to. What we used to do in the past when we were doing website builds is we would communicate everything through email. And probably about a year and a half ago, we said, okay, no more email, because as you know, email can be just so burdensome.
Stuff gets buried in email.
Stuff gets buried. Yeah, you have a conversation, and then somebody gets CC'd in the email, and then somebody answers, but that other person wasn't CC'd in the answer, and then there's forms and attachments, and the subject line changes. It's just a nightmare.
Right.
So we another thing that's great about Basecamp is allows us to communicate with our clients in a way that's focused specifically, we call them threads, specifically on each thread that's appropriate to the project. So you can create a thread. So for us, onboarding and bringing on a client and acquiring their digital assets, such as photos or maybe subpage content, things like that, we can have specific conversations in specific threads related to specific topics. And then they can actually invite people to the topic or to the discussion from their team as well. And it just keeps everything really nice and clean. And then for us, you can assign and reassign. So a lot of times we have a lot of things that we're kind of quote unquote passing the baton from one member to another. Yep. And you can assign and reassign and put dates and due dates. And it's just a process that, or a tool that makes project management for your team just such a breeze.
Yeah. I would say like one of the pains that this is solving is if you are at a spot where you're ready to scale or you're ready to grow and you sort of have, like for me, doing the work that we do with you, like in the very beginning, you were one of our first clients in. And so I was managing it all in my head. And there's a certain ceiling or lid to what I could get done and manage in my head. And so like something like Basecamp all of a sudden lets your team communicate, your clients communicate. So if you're starting to feel the pinch, you listening to this, starting to feel the pinch of all the balls you're juggling and plates that are spinning, like, then that's a good indication that you're ready for project management software. And Basecamp is a great one for that, for sure.
That's a great point, Chris. Once because we all have critical mass where we can only manage so many things. Yeah. And all the business coaching I've ever gotten, the answer to most things is how can you leverage other people or other resources to help you do this? Right. And that's a great, if you're at a breaking point where you're like, I can't keep track of anything anymore, you need a project management tool, and Basecamp is a very affordable and a very simple tool.
Yeah. So good. I love it. Okay. Actually, and I just want to say this, we'll probably say stuff like this again throughout this episode, but I think what's cool when you're working with somebody like you as a guide. So if we come to you to build us a website or help us with clarifying our message, what I love is that you're not you, Kurt, are not just a technician that knows how to build a website, but that you're a business person who thinks from the bigger picture of how to scale a business. And I always feel like that's value add. When you work with people who have been there and done it in scaling their organization, that is value add, because Kurt's not just building you a website. He actually can be a resource and a guide for other things as you bump into them.
Yeah. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today is just things that we've learned in running a business.
Yeah.
This is kind of fun. We're in episode 19 now of the human side of marketing. And so now we're kind of like, we're your friend talking to another friend, because a lot of you have been with us the whole journey. Right. And so this is just, honestly, this isn't a lot about marketing messaging, as you'll find out as we keep going. It's literally, hey, here's something free to help you be more productive.
Yeah. So let's talk about content relationship management, or contact relationship management, CRMs. Let's talk about how do we manage the relationships? Because as your people grow, as you get more and more people, you've got to be able to manage that relationship, and that's what CRMs are for. Yeah,
and when you mean people, you mean like external contacts where they could potentially turn into customers.
Right.
Not necessarily your team. So just to make that clear. So you're growing your business, or maybe your business is at a point where you have multiple, you have customers, you have potential customers, you have leads, like, hey man, I told so-and-so about you and they want to contact you. I'm always like, oh, what's their name? Mm-hmm. Would it be okay if I reached out to them? Mm-hmm. What's their contact information? Yeah. And so where do you put all that stuff? If you do any sort of networking, you're grabbing business cards and you're meeting people, or just being out in a community. We're inundated with potential customers all the time. Yep. And if you don't have a way of keeping track of who's who out there, or what the contact was, or how to or their contact information, or where you got the contact, or what industry they're in, those are becoming just so critically important as we get more and more tools to be able to reach out to very specific people. And that's a whole nother podcast on verticals that you can reach out to in very specific details. But anyway, where do you put all those details? We put them in a CRM or a contact relationship management tool.
Mm-hmm.
There are a ton of them out there. And I think we've actually mentioned this one before in a previous podcast. But the thing that I've realized, that the thing that I've gone through as a business owner trying to find one that works, is there's a lot of them out there that are super, super bloated.
Right.
And if there's anybody listening that's tried to use a CRM that's extremely bloated, you have gone through the experience where you're like ripping your hair out. All I want to do is put their name and their email or their phone number in here, and I just want to be able to remember who they are and when I need to contact them.
Right.
That's all I want to do. Get all that other crap out of my way. Now, some of those really bloated CRMs are extremely powerful. Yep. So if you are in an industry where you need to kind of go to that next level, one-page CRM, which is the one we're going to talk about here, might not check all the boxes for you. But if you need to start somewhere with a CRM, I would recommend one-page CRM. Their little tagline or their little elevator pitch or one-liner says, "We've converted the complexity of a CRM into a to-do list."
Nice.
So literally their whole philosophy is, what's the next step? There's only one next step.
That's great.
And literally, when you boil it down to just very simple brass tacks, is keeping connected with somebody, whether it's a customer or a lead, there is truly only one next step.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
And so what's great about one-page CRM is you literally can only have one next thing. Now, you can have a kind of a series of things that will come next, but literally it's so let's say I met you at a networking event, Chris Angel, and you're in business consulting and coaching. And so I would grab your card, I'd go back to the office, I would plug your name in, I would plug your industry in, maybe a little bit about what we talked about. And then I would make a to-do item for myself that said, reach out to Chris with the digital asset X that we talked about and you promised you would send, right? I know for me that prior to this tool, there were many times where I would promise to connect with people and I would see them at the next networking event. And I'd be like, oh my gosh,
quick hide.
I hope they don't see me because I completely forgot to reach out to them. And we've all done it.
Everybody's been,
we've all done it. Yeah. And so what's nice about this to-do based CRM tool is it's really simple. And then also you give yourself a list of things you need to do on a daily basis. Yeah. So literally you can say, reach out to Chris, give him this thing. I don't have time to do it now. So let me schedule it for like next Tuesday. And then next Tuesday pops up, you kind of put this into your daily routine. I'll reach out to Chris, reach out to Steve, reach out to Kevin, bing, 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 done. And then maybe I reached out, gave you a call and we couldn't connect. So I made a note, gave him a call. What's the next step? Reach out again or try to send an email. So it's all based upon, and there's many different ways that you can make this work for you. But what I like about it is it's really, really simple. Yeah. And then there's a whole nother aspect of the one-page CRM where you can do tags. You can tag people, so you can grab groups of people. That's why I was talking about just doing because there's probably people out there listening right now that goes, I do it all on an Excel spreadsheet. Right? But the thing that can be kind of frustrating about that is if you wanted to run a query of people that you met at a certain location or people of a certain industry or people of a certain a certain product maybe that they would be interested in versus another one. And you can't figure out a way to kind of like tag them or categorize them, then you're really limiting yourself. Yeah.
Well, to the point we mentioned about project management software, like at some point when you're ready to scale and go to the next level, you need automation or to use your word leverage. You need leverage and tagging. Having a CRM that allows you to tag people starts to allow you to communicate faster, more quickly.
Yes. Yeah.
And implement automations that otherwise you don't have in a spreadsheet or even CRMs that don't allow you to tag.
Yeah. And if you want to start really playing in the modern way of communication with your customers, potential customers, leads, and you don't have a CRM that you can quickly categorize people into certain groups, then you're really handcuffing yourself to be able to do the things that the marketplace digitally is basically almost not requiring, but if you're going to play with the big boys, you have to be able to do the things like campaigns that are focused on very specific people. Or if you're running a campaign, let's say on Facebook, you're running a very specific campaign and you're getting these people into your, into kind of underneath your umbrella, where do you put them? So you could maybe reach out to them again, or so maybe you could communicate with them when you have another offering of the same, in the same vein or the same product. Or an offering maybe these types of people are also interested in that. How do you communicate with those people if you don't have a way to categorize them?
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, CRMs are like, if you don't have one, you just got to get into one and start baby stepping. It's the same with almost any technology tool. You got to get in and start playing with it and just getting comfortable with using it. But you definitely, if you're ready to grow, you definitely need a CRM. So
yeah, and again, one-page CRM is the perfect place to start if you've never used a CRM before.
That's awesome.
Or honestly, if the CRM you're using is super bloated and so complex that you feel like it's fighting you more than helping you.
Yeah, that's really good. Let's talk about time tracking and invoicing, because I know some people they actually do billable hours. They talk about like they're accountable for tracking their time because that's how the client pays them. So what do you guys recommend for time tracking and invoicing?
We use a tool called Harvest, and you can find it at getharvest.com. And this is probably one of the most critical things that we use in the office, because we've got an internal team, we've got some external team members, and if I don't know where their time is being spent, I don't know if we're on budget. If it's a time and materials project and I'm paying them for their time and they haven't tracked their time to invoice the customer, then I'm losing money. We want to see, like, if we're the website project that we did 6 months ago, there's another one very similar coming up, with a new lead or potentially a new contract. And I want to look at the one that we did 6 months ago and went, okay, how well did we do efficiently or based upon time in creating something that's going to be very similar to the client that I'm bidding right now? Right. I can look at that time and go, okay, based upon that, we were profitable or we weren't profitable, or that took way more time than we thought it would. So don't make that mistake again, bid it to the degree that I need to. And so this time tracking tool is really, really, really critical for us. Mm-hmm. And also it allows us to do all the invoicing we need. So many times we're working on a contracted project that's not time and materials, but I'm still having my team members run a timer to see if we're on budget. And then inevitably there's always the add-on stuff that happens with us. Like, oh, hey, can we do this form? Sure, that would be an add-on, but let's do it. So we can create a timer within this whole project to say this one timer is billable. So at the end of the project, I'll know that the time and material spent on that add-on was 3 hours. And I'm not just, guessing at the end of the whole thing. Right. Also, it allows us to quickly turn time that's been tracked into invoices. Right. That's a really critical piece as well. And it's all within the same tool. Now, there are time tracking tools that you can then kind of connect with QuickBooks. And I'm sure there's things out there that work really well. What I like about this one is it's all one thing. Yeah. The time tracking and the invoicing is all one thing.
Side note, speaking of productivity, because that's kind of how we labeled this episode, but the times that I've used a time tracker just to try to document what it is I'm doing so that I can look at what I did, how much time it took, and I know what I'm looking for in a contractor. Yeah. That's super helpful. But when I turn that timer on, I'm actually more productive because I know there's a clock running, and so I don't squirrel. Like, I'm such a squirrel, I can just squirrel down a rabbit hole. Or squirrel up a tree.
Rabbit down a hole, squirrel, trees.
I can rabbit up a tree.
I'm sure squirrels go down rabbit holes.
Probably. Sure. But I think that time tracking, not just for the billable hours that it's effective for, and not just for trying to figure out what you're hiring to, but also your own productivity when you turn a timer on, just more on point. So
absolutely. And one thing that's nice about this app that we use, or this tool that we use, Harvest, is I can look back from month to month and go, how much did we make this month? How much did we make that month? They've got a really nice dashboard. I can see, I know for a fact the month of October was the biggest month that we had the entire year, because there's a simple little graph that stares at me every time I open up harvest. And,
Nice.
and then one of the other months, I think it was like May, was one of our lowest. So that's where you can look back and go, why was it so low? And why was this so high? And since we've been looking, since that reporting has been available, since we've been using this tool, which we've used this for about 4 years now, I can see trends in our for Well-Dressed Walrus anyway. I don't know if it's necessarily industry wide, but I know that certain months are going to be lower and certain months are going to be higher. And it's not like we're beholden to the seasons like other industries, but for whatever reason, it seems like businesses all have seasons to some degree, and I can look back from year to year and go, there's a pattern. For whatever reason, there's a pattern in how we what the money that we make from month to month. And so the reporting piece of it, I guess, is my point. The reporting piece of it is really nice because it's really clean and clear and is staring you in the face every time you open up the tool.
I like it. One of the things that comes up often in business is contracts, right? So in a world of digital signatures, like, digital contracts are becoming more and more popular. So what do you guys use for signatures in digital contracts?
Yeah. We use a tool called Panda Docs. Pandadoc.com is the URL, Panda Docs. And Panda Docs is really nice because it is a drag and drop interface. So I can create create contracts through kind of a drag and drop strategy, because like a lot of industries, the offerings that we put forth in a contract are very similar from contract to contract.
Right.
But there's inevitably always an add-on or something that's a little different. So you can use templated pieces you can drag in. You can create your own, custom little piece that you can drag in. And a lot of times it's informational. Like, this is the scope of the contract. This is the what's included, what's not included. This is kind of the timeline of the contract. And here's the line items of each thing that you're buying. One thing that I really like for us, and with every single thing that I'm talking about here, there's so many more pieces that you'll probably get into and go, oh, I really like this thing. And Panda Docs has a ton of different assets that I don't even get into. But for us, it works really well because of this one tool. They allow the line items, because it's a bid that's sent online and it's a live interactive bid. So I can select and deselect certain line items as a customer. So when I send out these bids, I always tell people, hey, here's a contract based upon our conversation. There are some add-ons that I put in here that I think you would benefit from. They are a la carte style, so you can add them to your bid or you can take them off your bid. And then it allows me to do little descriptions of what it is. It allows me to do quantities. Like, for example, we offer training. Yeah. So the line item of training includes this. And you can either turn on, or you can either select or deselect training. And then also you can select how many hours you want of training, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. That's and it allows the customer to create the line item quantities in there according to their needs. So that's what's great about that piece of it is you don't have to review a contract and then say, oh, I want to do 3 hours rather than 2. Okay, let me change it to 3. Then I'm going to email you again, and then I'm going to give you another PDF that you can download and sign, and then you get the signed contract, and it's like, oh, they signed the one that said 2 hours and they wanted 4 hours. Okay,
so let me change it on your end, and then when they view it, it's already changed.
They can change it themselves.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so the line item is editable. That's my point is it's a live interactive tool that they can edit themselves. Obviously, they can't edit the price that you're going to charge for it. That would be stupid. I prefer this to be $5 rather than $500. Yeah. Oh, nice for me. But
pay what you want.
Yeah, but you can make those line items editable. So my point there with Panda Docs is, one is it's online. You can accept the digital signature. And that's really helpful for people, especially if you're working with people who are not in your geographical area. Even if you're working with somebody down the street, it's 2019. People want to be able to do things online.
Right.
Also, there's a piece of it related to making an initial deposit, which we actually haven't turned on because we have the whole harvest process that we do. One thing that's also nice about Panda Docs is, and a lot of these different tools, is they'll start integrating with each other. which actually reminds me, I probably should look at PandaDocs and see if they've done any recent integrations with Harvest. Maybe they have.
Right.
So a lot of these online tools out there that are being offered in the marketplace are so great because they start realizing that they are a critical piece for this business and that business. They're like, hey, let's start working together and create, start linking one another to each other. And so that's a really cool piece of it too.
That's good. I love it. So that's an awesome way to do online contracts. Let's bring it home, Kurt, with email. I know that some people say, we just did an episode on like email is dead or kill your email, but there are places where kill your newsletter. Okay. Right. Well, so there, right. But there are places where email, I feel like email is very personal. Yeah. That's why people get so offended when they're spammed is like, it's like, I don't want your spam in my inbox. I want only stuff that I want in my inbox. And so I feel like you should have like a PDF that's like the human side of email.
Yeah, there you go.
I feel like there's a human way to approach.
There's an episode right there. We'll have to remember that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's a right way to do email and it matters and it actually makes a connection. But to do that, you don't want to just go into Google every time and out of Gmail send a one-off email to hundreds of people. You want to start to have automation. So what do you guys use or recommend for email?
So the piece that I'm going to talk about is actually how to unclutter your inbox.
Oh, nice. I totally took it a different direction. That's fantastic. That's awesome.
No problem.
Well, stay tuned for that episode. We'll do that.
Stay tuned for that episode. I'm sure there's awesome tools out there. But for this one, this is a tool that I use, and it's a paid-for tool called Sane Later. And you can get the tool at sanebox.com.
SANE.
SANE. Yeah, sane. Keep yourself sane. Sanity. Yeah. So our inboxes are constantly inundated with emails that we may or may not want to read, but we could read them later, right? This SaneBox has a service where it'll actually create a separate folder for emails that you don't necessarily need to read right away. So it's a folder that just kind of keeps ticking up as far as the amount of emails that go into the folder. And I see the number rising, on a daily basis, but I only check that folder like maybe once or twice a week.
Cool.
And you can train emails to be, to go directly to that folder.
Right.
So for example, I'm a big Denver Broncos fan. And maybe something gets sent out by the Denver Broncos or the NFL or whatever, and I want to read it, but I don't want it in my inbox that I have to go, I'll read that later. And then you're going to read it later, but then it's still sitting in your inbox, and it's cluttering your view of your inbox every time you're coming in and reading something important. So this Sane Later tool allows you to train emails to go away until you want to read them.
Cool.
Kind of a thing. Cool. So the important emails stay in your inbox, but the distractions get moved to Sane Later.
Yeah.
And you can track and get notified. There's other little tools that this service provides is track and get notified when someone hasn't replied to your email. So if you are reaching out to somebody like, hey, I need an answer on this, and we've all experienced this, and you don't get a reply, and you kind of forget too, and then the thing that critical time starts to come around, and you're like, oh my gosh, nobody ever replied to me. Right. Well, this thing will kind of alert you like, hey, nobody's replied to this email. Do you want to send it again? For example, you can snooze emails.
Yeah.
So maybe you want it to kind of stay in your inbox, but you want it to get out of your view until maybe 24 hours from now. So you can snooze emails, and then you can set your inbox to do not disturb as well. Now, Gmail has actually come out with some of these features in their new release of their Gmail system. But this is also an add-on for me that I really love because it declutters. That's really for me what it does. It declutters my inbox.
Right.
And a cluttered inbox can be such an incredible drain on your day.
Right. Yep. Big time. Yeah. I mean, I think those are the visual clutter, the visual distractions sometimes are those little things that you don't think of, but they steal so much productivity and energy. It's crazy.
Yeah. And we're so distracted anyway. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, I'm super focused. Then you go to your inbox and realize, there's that the email inbox. Oh, geez. Yeah. There's definitely times of the day where I just completely turn off that tab on my browser because I'm like, I go to my email. It's going to distract me. So,
yeah,
with all of these tools, I'm going to put a link on our website at welldressedwalrus.com/tools.
Perfect.
So welldressedwalrus.com/tools, and I'll put a link to each one of these.
Nice.
So you can go check it out yourself. And I was thinking as we were talking, and I didn't really necessarily make this note in my notes, but the human side of marketing. This is kind of the human side of being productive as well. Because one thing that I mentioned was for contracts, people want to do things online. Mm-hmm. Things like that. The CRM being more connected to the people who want to hear from you. You know, the project management tool, when you can provide assets and tools to your customers that helps them be more productive as well. And the more productive you are, the better you're able to serve your customers. So right. We could call this maybe the human side of online productivity tools or something.
Yeah, totally. I love it. Well, I think speaking of productivity, if people want to reach out to you to become more productive by having their message clarified or their website built, like what's a great way to reach out to you guys?
You can always go to our website at welldressedwalrus.com, mm-hmm. or you can go to clarifymywebsite.com and schedule a time to just connect with me. No obligation. Let's connect and figure out where you're stuck.
I love it. So good. Good stuff, Kurt. Thanks for bringing the utility today. That you brought some value in the tools. I think we're always looking for tools and to give us an edge in productivity. And I think today's episode is fantastic for that. So until next time, thanks, man. See ya.
All right.